Hi, I'm Goose, and welcome back again. I have something a little bit different for you guys this time around. I recently sat down with VahaanMC and her plot in the bakery server, and we talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about Minecraft and architecture, curves, lines, angles, a whole bunch of cool things. And I wanted to take some of those things and bring them back here and break them down, one, so that I could learn them, and also so that I could teach them to you. We'll be bouncing back and forth a little bit between my world here and the interview with Vahaan in her creative plot. But before we get into that, I wanted to introduce you to some of Vahaan's builds and some of the amazing work that she does in Minecraft. So were you into Minecraft first, or were you into architecture first?
Minecraft.
Oh, it was Minecraft first? Nice. How'd you get into architecture stuff?
I met Potomi. He's a Japanese builder, and he does lots of like Bloodborne, Gothic stuff. And all the people on his Discord server are super into architecture, and I just like kind of learned from the grapevine, and then studied it on my own, and then started taking courses in college for it. It's very fascinating, but I had no idea it was interesting until I met people who were interested in it.
So and you do all of the interior architecture accurate too as well, like all the supports?
Yeah, or I try to.
Do you find, because I know I saw you posted you had some references that you found, like some old like architectural drawings. When you don't have those, do you just you just use what you know and kind of wing it, or do you just leave it blank if you can't find like accurate stuff for it?
Cathedrals are some of the most pronounced architecture. Like many people like it, so it's you're usually able to find a good reference for something.
Yeah, that makes
Although
sense.
if you can't, I I do just wing it, and sometimes I'll omit things that I don't like anyways,
Yeah.
like weird vault patterns and stuff that just only look good in real life, but when you translate it into this medium, it just doesn't work out. Like I won't do English fan vaults or anything because they just don't work.
English fan vaults?
Yeah, I'll show you. They're really pretty, but oh man, each of the pillars like split off into cones and then have like
Okay.
patterns running up them.
I see what you mean. Oh yeah, that looks like a nightmare to do in this, unless you're doing huge scale on it. Isn't that amazing? I've been seeing Vahan's builds for a while now, and I'm still just in awe when I go and look at them up close. They're really, really good builds. So great job, Vahan. You're doing fantastic. And to all of you watching, after you finish this video, you're going to be able to make builds just like her. No, I wish. It's not that easy. But I was able to take what Vahaan taught me and break it down into the fundamentals of how she gets those lines and angles and curves. And it's as good as any first step into creating better builds. So we're going to hop into the details, starting with something that we covered a little bit in line and movement. We're going to be talking about line weight. For some of the things that we're going to talk about here, we're going to need what's called a debug stick. If you don't know what a debug stick is, it's an item in the game that lets you put blocks in states that you wouldn't normally be able to get. To access the debug stick, you need to go to your escape menu, options, controls, and turn operator items tab on. This will give you an extra tab in your creative menu that's going to have a lot of really, really useful items, including invisible light blocks, command blocks, structure blocks, things like that. The one we're looking for is the debug stick. Now, you can only use the debug stick in creative mode. So when we get into actually doing the curves and angles, I'm going to be showing you how to do those without the debug stick as if you were in survival mode. But the debug stick does give you a ton of other options, so I thought it was worthwhile to at least briefly cover it in this video. When you place a wall block next to another wall block or any other solid block, they connect with just this little segment right here. Using the debug stick, we're able to get this attachment without actually having another block. So it's going to make this wall block just a tiny bit thicker. You can do this on any side using different options on the debug stick. You can also do things like make walls waterlogged. This gives us a little bit more variation when working with things like walls, but it also works on things like fences, glass, iron bars, and a few other blocks. Even with just the standard blocks in the game without the debugging, we have quite a lot of variation of line weight or thickness. When we're working vertically, we can go from 2 blocks through all of this different variation up to only 2 pixels wide with something like glass and the iron bars. Things like banners can give us just a little bit of variation as well, but they do have movement. I know that it used to be a thing that banners moved less the older they were, but I don't know if this is still in the game. I think this was removed in 1.19. If anybody knows how to make banners not move with the wind, please let me know in the comments, because that would be very, very useful. We can work in a similar way when doing horizontal lines. Things like carpet can be useful, but they can only be placed on the top of blocks, so they can be a little bit limiting. But with trapdoors, slabs, full blocks, and signs on slabs, we can get a pretty large variation of thickness. The reason line weight is so important to this lesson is because it's going to allow us to smooth out our angles and curves. In this example right here, we're going from 2 blocks all the way down here to 1 block all the way up here. That gives us all of these different steps to transition and make that a smooth angle instead of just going from 2 blocks to 1 block. For this next part, we're going to get into a little bit of math, but I promise you it's simple and you will understand in the end. If you don't understand, that just means that I didn't do my job as a teacher. Let me know in the comments, and if anything didn't make sense, I will take time to explain it to you in a different way until it does. Anytime you have 2 points and you want to connect those points with a line, that line is going to have a specific slope. Now, slope is just a way to describe how steep or shallow a line's angle is. In this case, we can't just go straight diagonally across because those are not going to meet up. This is going to end up over there when we want it to end up over here. In this case, we need something more like this. This way, we have a smooth, consistent line linking those 2 points together. Now, if we want to find the slope of this line, all we really have to do is count from any one point to another point. So, for example, we started here, and we want to get to right here. So we're going to go up 1, 2, and then over 1. You may have heard this referred to as rise over run. Up first, and then across. Because we're going up 2 and over 1, we can write that out as 2 over 1. The fraction 2 over 1 is also the same as just 2. So this line has a slope of 2. Anytime you have a point, if the slope is 2, you're going to be going up 2, over 1, up 2, over 1, up 2, over 1, and on. Down here, we have a perfect diagonal. This is a 45-degree angle. It's right in between each axis. And in this case, we're just going up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1. This can be written as a slope of 1 over 1 or just 1. Anytime we have a slope of 1, it's going to be a diagonal just like this, a 45-degree angle. Here's another example. If you want to, pause the video now and see if you can figure out what the slope of this line is. Remember, it's going to be up and then over. You're starting at this block right here, and you're going to go to this block right here. In this case, we're going up 1 and then over 1, 2, 3. Up 1, over 1, 2, 3. So this line's slope can be represented as 1 over 3, or a slope of 1/3. Sometimes you'll have 2 points and there won't be anything between them. You need to find out what the slope of that line would be in order to make something even. Otherwise, you can end up with a lot of frustrating trial and error trying to find the right slope, but it's just not really working out in an even and cohesive way. Remember, you want to find how far up you need to go and then how far over to meet 2 different points on the line. Now, it doesn't just have to be the next point. So in this case, up 1, over 1. You can also be looking at maybe this point to this point. We're going to be going up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4. The fraction 4 over 4 is still equal to 1. So we still know that the slope of the line is 1, even though we looked at different points. Now, knowing that, take a moment and see if you can figure out what the slope of the line between these 2 points would be. We can count the rise and run between these 2 points to find the slope of the line that's going to connect them. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the rise, and the run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have a slope of 6 over 12. Now, 6 is half of 12. Another way that you can represent this is just 1 over 2. So we know that the slope of this is going to be 1 over 2. So we go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. Now that we have the slope, we just need to fill in the other bits. And there we have an even slope between those 2 points. The reason you want to be able to find the slope of a line is because we have different ways of smoothing out a line depending on what the slope is. So for this example right here, we have a slope of up 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4. This has a slope of 1/4, or 1 over 4. It's an even and consistent line, but it's not very smooth. It has these big jagged jumps and then a straight line in between. Using the techniques we're about to go over that Vahaan showed me, you can smooth this line out so that it has a consistent thickness and a very smooth, consistent slope. Now, these 2 lines have the same slope of 1 over 4, but the top one is a much more consistent angle. Now, not every angle can be made into a perfectly smooth, consistent line. There are still restrictions in the way that Minecraft works. Behind me are what Vahaan referred to as the fundamental angles. These are angles that we can turn into perfectly smooth, consistent lines.
Those are the fundamentals. So it's like the 4 block angle, you can get a perfect incline. The 2 block angle, perfect incline. This is the one that like nobody really knows about, but it's a 3/4 angle. So it's like the slope would be like 3 over 4,
Oh, okay.
like that. But it ends up being 1 1 2 1 1 2 repeating. But it's a fundamental angle.
And then what were the ones looking at like the spokes? It was this intermediate one, the one you said gets kind of like lumpy.
Yeah, this one gets a little lumpy right here. It's the 3 block angle. Like you see it kind of like you can see the repeating pattern every 3 blocks or whatever. But it
Okay,
it
yeah.
kind of jumps a tiny bit each time it goes into the next one.
Yeah, it's not totally smooth. That makes sense. Right here, we have all 7 of the fundamental angles that Vahaan showed me, not including the flat line on the left and the vertical line on the right. Starting from the left, I'm going to go over what the slope of each angle is. We have 1 over 4, 1 over 2, 3 over 4, 1, 4 over 3, 2, and 4. The top section contains an example of each angle with blocks of similar color, so you can see what the angle looks like. The bottom half, I've broken up each block and color-coded them so that you can more easily see how these angles are made. In all of these cases, the lime concrete is a full block, and red sandstone is a slab. Along the very bottom, you'll see a section of each one of these lines taken out into its basic component, so that you can see a little better how this line is made. For most of these, I hope that the color coding is enough for you to be able to decipher how they're built from the screenshots, but I did want to go through and build a couple of them so you can see a little bit closer how they're done. So we're going to start with this one. This is 1 over 4, and we're starting with just a block and the slab on the top. And this is where the signs really come in. When you put a sign on the bottom of a slab, it's going to fill it out just a little bit, but not quite enough that it reaches the bottom of the block. Putting a trapdoor on top of that is going to fill this out to be almost the same height as a full block. Then we can go from there and do a full block out of slabs, another partial block with the slab, a sign, and the trapdoor. And then we finish off that segment with another full block. So we're using the slabs, signs, and trapdoors to mimic full blocks, but to put them in positions that you wouldn't normally be able to put a full block in. On the vertical lines, we're going to be using walls and glass. Like Vahaan mentioned, you can also use debugged walls instead of glass, but to keep it survival friendly, we'll be using glass for these. The benefit of using a wall is that it's going to start almost in the middle of the block. Now, it's not quite coming all the way to either side, but when you add something like a trapdoor, you can get that little segment to come off and fill in that side of the block. and then we have a little bit of an overhang to carry into the next step. A similar thing happens with the glass. When we put it on there, it's starting a little bit to the right of the edge of the wall, and when we put a second piece of glass, it carries it over to the middle of the next block. By alternating patterns like this, we're able to, like the other one, mimic full blocks that are in places that we wouldn't normally be able to put full blocks. And then we can finish it off with a full block at the end. Some of these lines have two different ways of making them. For example, 1/2 can be made starting on a full block or starting on a slab. I've also shown an example of the 4-3 angle that Vahaan was talking about in the clip I just showed. You can see how much better this line becomes when you follow these ways of building it instead of just doing the 1-1-2, 1-1-2. It becomes a very consistent, smooth incline. The real power and strength of building angles this way is that each one of these lines stays the same weight. Even though, for example, on the 4-3 angle, sometimes we have to go up by 2 and sometimes we go up by 1, we're able to build this line so that it's 1 block wide all the way up. These angles are also reversible. You don't have to start at the bottom left and go up to the top right. You can also mirror them and flip them and make an entire wheel like the ones in the clip of Vahaan building the spokes. You may also notice that this gives us almost 360 degrees of different angles. Next, I'm going to show you how we can take these angles and use them to make very smooth curves and circles.
The way I build circles is exactly with those angles. I just transition from the really steep one into like the slightly more inclined until you get to the 45 and then repeat. I'm kind of going into the flat part at the top. It's all the same stuff. I'm just using debugged walls instead of glass. Because like the really precise angles, I don't think everyone needs them unless you're doing kind of geometric stuff like rose windows and Gothic or like architecture stuff. Kind of has those like precise angles in them. But if that's not your goal with it, you're just trying to like smooth out a roof in a survival build, some of these fundamentals will be nice to have. I'll take a measurement of like, oh, I need, what is this, like a 31 block wide arch or something? 33. It's like the pointy arch down here is 33 blocks wide. And I know that those are going to be 2 intersected circles. So I have to build a circle with radius 33, or maybe it's, yeah, radius 33, and then you just intersect them. So it's like, I'll take a measurement on the build, I'll go build it separately so that I have that asset if I ever need it later. And then I can copy paste it back into the build and merge it into the wall and stuff. Yeah, that's how Gothic arches are. I'll send some reference images.
Circles and curves is where we really start to apply the knowledge that we gained over here. What Vahaan is doing is separating a round circle into separate straight angles, and then finding the best way to smooth out that straight angle so that it looks more round and consistent. You can see a ton of difference from the original curve of the circle using just full blocks to using the techniques that Vahaan just showed us. Now, you can see right here we have 3 that are in a perfect diagonal. This is a 45-degree angle and a slope of 1. Now, like we talked about over here, the smoothest way to do a slope of 1 is just with these full blocks in a diagonal, if we want to keep it 1 block wide. Now, I did it a little bit differently. I liked the walls with the glass because it still keeps it about 1 block wide, but it breaks up the edges a little bit. Now, when you break up the edges to smooth things out, that's called anti-aliasing. And I think there was a video on that. I don't know. It sounds really familiar. It reminds me of something, but I'm not really sure what. Anyway, I did a little bit of that to smooth out that edge. Now, it doesn't look perfect, but I do like it more than just leaving the 3 blocks in a diagonal. Also, I'm joking. There's an inside joke in the Discord server about the video about anti-aliasing. It's by Cool2. I'm going to put it up in the corner right now and down in the description. It is a fantastic video talking about how to smooth out your angles in your builds. And all the videos that Cool2 is putting out right now are really, really good. Go check them out. They're absolutely worth watching. They go hand in hand with everything we talked about today. So go check them out and tell them Goose sent you. We can do the same thing with any curve. It doesn't just have to be a circle. Now we have the full block curve on top, and you can see, especially on this left side, how much smoother that looks when we use these partial blocks and we smooth them out like the angles we did over here. It really does improve the curve a lot. Again, I did the same thing here, even though this is just 3 blocks in a diagonal. I like to break it up with the walls and the glass. I think it looks a little bit better and it makes it look a little bit more round. And just like before, I have the same curve at the bottom with all the color-coded blocks so you can get a better idea of how this curve was made. Thank you so much to Vahaan for taking the time to, show me around her world and explain all this stuff to me so that I can come and explain it to you. Really go check out her builds. She's active on the bakery. She's very active in my Discord, there's a link to the Discord down below. She's active in the bakery Discord, and it's just awesome stuff. She is seriously a gold mine of knowledge when it comes to building this way and when it comes to the actual architecture itself. She's great to talk to about all of these things. If you enjoyed this video, think about leaving a comment or subscribing. It really does a lot to help the channel. It supports the channel much more than you think it does, just a subscription or a comment. And I'm really grateful for it. And that none of this would be happening if it weren't for people like you doing a little bit to support. So thank you so much. I also have a quick announcement. I had another building contest in the Discord server, made this one a little bit more challenging. It was a suburban house, including the interior. There were some really, really awesome entries, and we have 2 winners. One of them was chosen by the judges, and one of them was chosen by the community. The winner of the community vote was Koi with this really, really cool mansion. It's very clean, crisp, solid build. Fantastic job. And the winner of the judge vote was Wreckjaw with this just absolutely wild build. There's so much detail in here. I love it. And speaking of angles, the entire thing is built on an angle. It really reminds me of old 90s, early 2000s cartoons. I think it is a fantastic piece. It was very surprising and new and just great job. Great job. If a contest is something you're interested in, I try to host them every month. So hop over into the Discord server, links down below, all that good stuff. I'd love to see you there. And as always, thank you guys so much for your support. Seriously, this is all amazing. I know I say it at the end of every video, but it's so cool. It's so cool what you guys have done to, help this channel grow. I love you. Have a great day or week or month or whatever until I get the next video out. And I will see you soon. Bye.